Good evening, everyone. We'd like to reconvene the Thursday, February 27th, 2025 meeting of the Lake Forest Board of Education. If you would please join me for a pledge of allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone to the Delaware Early Childhood Center, affectionately in Harrington called the Little School, affectionately by Mr. Dempsey and maybe Mrs. McCluskey, where we went to kindergarten and first grade. So it's nice to be back many years later. We will start tonight, 2.3 roll call of board members. We have Mrs. McCluskey.
Here.
And Vice President Starkey.
Here.
And President Earl Dempsey serving as chair is here as well. We have 3 board members present. Thank you for being here. Move on to 2.4 approval of agenda, Mrs. Starkey.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0.
2.5 approval of minutes. I make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 13th, 2025 board meeting. Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0. We're up to the very fun part of the evening, 2.6 recognition and presentations. Turn it over to Dr. Lucas.
Good evening, everybody. We've got Mrs. Short here from the Delaware Early Child Center, the resident administrator. She's going to tell us all about the great things going on here today.
Welcome, Mrs. Short.
Hi. Hi. Good evening. Thank you for everybody for joining us here at the Delaware Early Childhood Center. I know it's been a long time since many of you have been here. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit about our programming here. Maybe. There it is. When it's raining here, we have a hard time with our Wi-Fi, with our internet. I'm not sure the old building. Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead and start the person. All right, so here in our building and across the district, we actually have 2 sets of programs. We have our home visiting programs and our preschool programs. So this year we've been talking a lot about it starts with us, and it truly does start with us here with our littlest ones. Yep.
That's the screen.
We start prenatal to kindergarten entry. And with our home visiting programs that we have programs that have been here in Lake Forest for as long as 30 years. We have parents as teachers, New Directions, Early Head Start, Child Care Partnership through Early Head Start, as well as Stand By Me. In those programs, we have 18 staff members, including a program manager, health coordinator. I have mine. Health coordinator, parent educators, home visitors that go into the community. Thank you. And we also have a financial coach here with Stand By Me. In our preschool programs, that includes our special education programming for the Lake Forest School District for, again, birth to kindergarten entry, state-funded early care and education seats, which was formerly known as ECAP. So lots of people know it as ECAP. It's no longer called that. And then we also have tuition-based seats. So we have a program called Little Spartans, which is our full-day childcare program. And then we also have students that join us for part day, where their families pay for them to be here too. We have a total of 9 classrooms in Lake Forest. So we have 5 here at DEC, 2 at Lake Forest North, 1 at Lake Forest East, and 1 at Lake Forest South. totaling currently 153 students. And then we also have an additional 13 students that are seen in their childcare centers or in their homes in the community. We have a total of 82 special education students, but that is increasing. So children, as they turn 3, can enter our program if they have special needs. So just this week, we added more students, so that number grows pretty quickly. We have 69 state-funded seats and then 40 self-pay tuition seats. And some of those students overlap. They can be special education students as well as state-funded. In the classroom, we obviously have our special education teachers, but we also have additional support. So we have 4 general education teachers, 20 paraprofessionals and assistant educators, occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech and language therapists. We also have 2 special education coordinators, just because of the nature of how many students we get in a year. We consult with audiology, autism itinerant teacher, behavior interventionist, early childhood mental health consultant, and teacher of the visually impaired. Our educators also complete 2 home visits every year per student where they're trying to build that connection with the home for the family partnership. We also provide itinerant services for special education students where staff collaborate with our childcare centers so that we can keep students in their most natural environment, because ultimately it's best for them to be, if they're in a childcare center and they're doing well there, it's best for them to stay there, not be pulled out for part of the day to come get special education services. So we send our staff there to assist them. We help train them, give them guidance, and then we also have some of our therapists go there to provide the services. And that allows us to provide, like I said, in the least restrictive environment. Additional services that we have here in the Delaware Early Childhood Center. So we hold the Child Find Coordinator, which is responsible for all child find obligations in Lake Forest, which includes birth mandates. So if a student is diagnosed with autism, deafblind, hearing impairment, or visual impairment, they can start services with the school district as early as birth. So we are responsible for that. We're also responsible for screening and evaluating all students referred from the Birth to 3 program through the state of Delaware. And then any community referrals. The ages and stages developmental screening review for all childcare providers in the Lake Forest feeder pattern. So all, as of 2023, all childcare centers are required to do screenings with their students, with their children, and we funnel them. They come to us and we go through them and screen them. And then we're also responsible for the early kindergarten entry requirements. We have family service workers, which is something we're really proud of here, that support our preschool programs. They help us with eligibility, enrollment, and attendance, family engagement and school readiness, family well-being, family connections to peers and community, as well as family advocacy and leadership. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but that is something we've really been working on, is that advocacy and leadership from the parent perspective. We also have a before and after care program here for students at South and Central. Currently, it's only South and Central because we have a bus that can bus them here. And then we hold 68 state-funded preschool seats in Milford and Seaford. Those classrooms are held in the Boys and Girls Clubs there. And that goes back to Lake Forest has housed, had ECAP programs for over 30 years, including in those areas. So there are some influences changing early childhood in Delaware Public Schools. So one of the big things recently was the Delaware Child Care Act. And that was where all public schools by July of 2024 were required to become licensed under Office of Child Care Licensing, which you'll see in a minute. There are some challenges that come with that because we're not a child care center here. We have to provide special education services as well. House Bill 202, developmental screenings, that's another one that's impacting us right now. So again, I said all students have to be screened through their through ages and stages. And the school districts are then required to process those screenings, which is increasing the amount of screenings that we're doing and the amount of special education evaluations that we're ultimately doing. Funding. Currently we only get unit count funding unless we apply for those state funded seats, which we do here in Lake Forest. But some other school districts don't necessarily have that. It's something we have to keep applying for. Because there are LRE requirements. We are required to have typical general education students with our special education students at a 50-50 rate or a 50-50 match. But that's an unfunded mandate. They're not giving us money to have those general education students. And then our standards are changing. So as of July 1st, 2025, we will be going to the Head Start Early Learning Outcomes Framework. We are proud in Lake Forest that our current curriculum actually matches those standards, so we're not super worried about it, but it is something that's changing. And we're hoping to roll that out. And then this year, Delaware's literacy plan finally includes pre-K. So it's always been the K-3 literacy plan. They've now included us, and the program manager from preschool programs and myself are part of that committee. So the challenges that we're facing. Part of the Office of Child Care licensing requirements requires an early childhood administrator to be on site 50% of the time. That's obviously a challenge for us here at Lake Forest because we have programs in all of the schools. So we can't split myself. So we're having to make sure that other people are considered early childhood administrators to split that time. Spacing requirements. So they measure a classroom, they tell me how many students we can put in a classroom, and sometimes that doesn't always match what we, can do or want to do or need to do. Same thing with class sizes and ratios. So to keep our class sizes lower, they tell us how many kids we can have to a teacher. But again, that doesn't always come with the funding to do that. The increased staff file requirements through Office of Child Care licensing, we have to keep a complete separate file from what HR has. We are required to have more training with those staff members. And then we also have to continue to do that every year. We have an annual renewal license. When it comes to our ages and stages and the developmental screening, as I mentioned, we're seeing an increase in screenings, which is increasing our workload, and increasing the evaluations that we are doing for special education students. I did just put in there our unit count trends. So beginning in 2020, we had only 35 students that were identified as special education, which got us 4.27 units. Fast forwarding to 2024 this year, we were at 83 students at 15.28 units, which is a huge increase for us in a short amount of time. So we are, again, still struggling to maintain the LRE requirements of having 50% general education students with these special education students and providing those itinerant services, because when they're asking us to go into those childcare centers, which we know is best, that takes a lot for one person to go in and see one student in that center. Because of licensing, our staff credentials also have to be different. So when we hire a paraprofessional, they cannot just have taken the parapro. They also have to have additional things in early childhood. Again, positive changes, but things that are influencing us and challenges that we're facing. We're struggling with the need for an adjusted calendar. We have a different amount of days that we are required to do than the rest of the school district, but we also have increased PD needs. And then our funding is year to year. So every year we are not sure if we're gonna have the funding we need to run the program the way that we want to, which continues to be a challenge. But despite those challenges, we have a lot of really great things happening here that we're really proud of. We transitioned over the past 3 years, we've transitioned to an inclusive preschool program. So when people call it ECAP, it drives me insane because we are not just ECAP, we are a preschool program that has students from all different areas. So that is something we continue to try to push. We are preschool programs in Lake Forest. We received a quality improvement award 2 years in a row. Again, something we're really proud of. We licensed all of our sites by July 1st, 2024. We were definitely a little concerned because that was a lot of work to have that done so quickly. Last year, we sent 13 educators to the Conscious Discipline National Conference and then created an implementation team for DEC. We began utilizing ProCare management system, which allows us to do all of our preschool applications and all of our communication with families, organization and tracking attendance, and all that happens in one place. 2 of our staff members presented at the Parents as Teachers National Conference. Parents as Teachers was a Blue Ribbon affiliate for the 2nd time. We have 10 staff members furthering their education. So we have met with Del State, University of Delaware, and Wilmington University to try to grow our own with our paraprofessionals and our teachers. So we have 10 that are enrolled and actively going to school. we talked about at the beginning here, we have new HVAC in the deck building, which is huge, which allows us to have this meeting here today. We hired a full-time custodian for the first time. We received bus contracts to safely transport our students. Previously, we were transporting our students in vans, driven by educators. And so we have been able to do that with, Mr. Willer's help. We're super excited, super happy with that. We have new cameras inside and outside of the building to increase security in all areas. As well, it's not on there, but we added doors, so that there is some level of protection there from people getting, access to our students. And then the part that's cut off at the bottom, that just happened this week, we had 2 Lake Forest parents that went to Legislative Hall and advocated for early childhood funding. And that was with the help of one of our family service coordinators, Desiree Oliver, who kind of helped them, got that, built up their courage so that they could do that. And we were really proud of that. We still know that there are things that we want to improve here, to ensure that we have an inclusive early childhood programming. Again, we're looking at high quality staffing, so continuing to try to get our staff members enrolled in higher education. The high quality instructional materials, we're constantly looking at our curriculum and how can we make it better, how can we supplement. We're exploring full day options. We currently only have our 2 childcare classrooms that are full day, but we know that some of these students need full day services to transition better to kindergarten. So we're exploring those options. Our summer programming, we currently only have students here that are on 12-month programming or ESY for special education, but we are looking this year to add our general education students. We're collaborating with the elementary schools. And then we've come up with improvements to our intake process, again, so that we can have applications and they're all going through one place. We've increased our work-based learning opportunities with Lake Forest students, partnerships with Lake Forest High School and Chittenden, our Parent Advisory Council and Policy Council. That's our, we have 2 members that attend the Parent Advisory Council, and then our Policy Council is continuing to grow to get parents to advocate again, as I said. We want to increase our attendance at our playgroups, so parents as teachers hold playgroups here in Harrington. It is now here at DEC, and we are trying to increase that. And then increase the quality of our home visits, again, to get into the homes and have parents recognize and learn that they are their parent or their student's first teacher. We have active opportunities to bring in community. I've named soccer shots. So we don't have like a gym teacher here. We don't have a music teacher. So we're bringing in those opportunities. So we recently partnered with a company called Soccer Shots. So our students were all able to participate in soccer. And then we are going to have a Special Olympics hosted here in May. We're also trying to get more classrooms, better playgrounds, and then our roofing is currently being done at DEC right now. We definitely invite you all to visit at any time, come in and see what we have going on here. We have this short video, Mr. Springer and the digital design team from the high school came and spent some time with us. Is starting that partnership, trying to get our branding out there. But they took this short video to just kind of showcase some of the things that are going on in the classroom. So we will play this and this. Any questions?
Thank you, Brandy. Appreciate it. This questions discussion from the board. Mrs. Starkey.
There's so much. There's just so many different things going on, and I just appreciate you and just all that you're doing for our youngest Spartans. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Ms. McCluskey.
Yes, and also, I've just never. Don't hear complaint, I hear so much positive about the people who have been, whether they're the regular ed students that are coming in and being part of the program. Whether it's the kids that are just getting OT, whether it's I've just heard nothing but love for their teachers, love of everything, so I'm just, it speaks for itself, and that's the word going around our community, so, I think, you guys are doing a great job, and you hear it out there, so every year at the beginning of the year, it's like, oh, am I going to deck, or, oh, you should see if your kid, even friends speak to each other, oh, you have a kid that's 3, let's see if you can get him into deck, so lots of people excited about the program, and I think like I said, I've never heard such positive things that come out of here, so great job for everybody here.
Thank you.
I will say we saw walking down the hallway, right, I'll call them the Staples easy buttons, right? Those are really cool. I know Mrs. Starkey took a picture and really loved those, and I got chastised walking down the hallway because I pushed one and was told that I'm supposed to repeat it and look in the mirror. So that's a really cool thing for those kids. I did have a question about the Office of Child Care Licensing thing. I'm trying to remember what changed. Is that office always existed in DOE? Was there a recent change?
No, there was a change, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
It used to be,
2024.
was it
2023.
elsewhere? Was it in the kids department or something?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so when they came over, that whole process expanded to where now it caught us into their mix? Is that what it was?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
It seems, the way you explain it, it does seem like a lot of, I'll call them cumbersome, almost hurdles that we have to overcome to,
Yes, and they are trying to change it back a little bit. They're going back and changing some of the language so that hopefully we'll have our own. But Lake Forest, and we have a couple other school districts that will still fall under, because we do have a childcare classroom. If we continue to have little Spartans, which we will, that's not going anywhere. Then we still have to follow, the more strict guidelines and those things, but hopefully we'll be able to find a balance.
so does this mean in this bucket we're in now that we are treated the same as a daycare, whether it's a facility or in-home?
Correct.
Wow. Okay. All right, thank you for that. Anything else? Well, it's great to be here. I got to see Mrs. Klein's first grade class and Mrs. Bunting's kindergarten class down the hallway, at least what it used to be. I don't know what it was for you, Jordan.
I had Miss Braswell, I think, for kindergarten, and Miss LeKites, who was one of my favorite teachers ever.
So thank you very much again. Keep up the great work. Anything we can do for you, please let us know.
Okay.
All right, we will move from that to item 2.7, citizens participation. Reading from our agenda, time is set aside early in the Lake Forest Board of Education meeting for citizens participation to allow members of the public to address board members on any relevant topic. Reading directly from Board Policy KE, Public Concerns and Complaints. The citizens participation item on the board agenda is an opportunity for members of the community to speak publicly. Those who wish to speak publicly to the board must complete the information form provided at the board meeting and submit it to the board secretary prior to the opening of the meeting. This form should clearly state the reason for addressing the board. Public should not expect discussion or responses at this board meeting. And finally, comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. So with that, we do have 2 public speakers signed up this evening. First, we'll start with Mr. Dwayne Hammond from Felton. Welcome, Mr. Hammond.
Can I ask a question before I proceed?
Sure.
I have some comments I would like to make, but my daughter, who could not be here tonight, sent me a letter. Can I be two people?
You cannot,
I cannot.
no,
Okay,
but if you would certainly
I want to.
take your time, you know,
want to
presenting what you want, and then if you want to
read her
leave.
letter.
Yeah, and then if you want to leave a copy of the letter to be distributed to the board, that would be fine
I
as
will
well.
leave it with you. There are a couple spelling mistakes, but we can live with that. Good evening. I'm Dwayne Hammond. I am going to read this on behalf of my daughter. My name is Brianna Hammond, and I am both a proud Lake Forest alum and a former assistant coach for the girls lacrosse team. I am addressing you today the recent decision to cancel the girls lacrosse team for this season. We just got this information yesterday. As a former player and assistant coach, it deeply saddens me to see this program canceled on short notice, especially with no other opportunities for these girls to play lacrosse. I understand the concerns raised, particularly by Mr. Johnson regarding low participation numbers. However, I believe canceling the program altogether is not the best solution. By canceling the season, we are not only depriving the girls who have never played the sport a chance to discover and fall in love with lacrosse, we are also taking away last opportunity for seniors who have played for 3 years to finish their high school careers. Wherever we had committed athletes, we had a committed athlete who plans to play lacrosse at the college level. Without her final season, she would enter her first year at college, having gone an entire year without competitive play, putting her at a significant disadvantage. The athletes themselves understand that this may be a challenging season. They know the team might face a losing record, and in fact, there was a recent season when the team went 1-13. In that 1-13 season, there was first-year young head coach and only 2 seniors. All of the rest were underclassmen, which is the same situation we face now. Yet despite this, the girls remain committed, persevered through the difficult times. They are still willing to give their best effort this season, knowing that it is about more than wins or losses. It is about building the program, growing as athletes, and creating memories. They are committed to preserving the spirit of the game and to taking advantage of this last opportunity to play together. Regardless of the players' future plans, it is a simple way to undertake these teammates have compiled a list of at least 12 who are interested in playing. It is also important to note that while the development of the feeder program is a worthy long-term goal, the lack of action on that front should not negatively affect the girls who are eager to play now. These athletes should not be penalized for lack of foresight when they have been showing up and working hard day after day in the present. There must be another solution that allows these girls to have a season. Here are a few suggestions. Can I
Continue for a few more seconds, I was saying.
Start the varsity season as planned, and once tryouts for other sports are finished, recruit athletes from those teams that did not make those teams to join the lacrosse program. Reestablish a JV program and play 77 games with other JV teams to allow players to learn the game without the pressure of a varsity season. Reach out to other local schools to explore options for these girls to play lacrosse in their programs. These are just a few ideas, but regardless of the path we take, something must be done. Women's lacrosse is a rapidly growing sport. In the last 20 years, participation in women's lacrosse has increased by 43%, and the sport is now included in the Olympic lineup. Yet we lack feeder programs that would help develop an interest and skill at the middle school level. To ensure future success of our program, we must work to create and strengthen these feeder programs. In conclusion, while I understand the challenges we face, I urge you to reconsider this cancellation and explore other options to ensure these girls have the opportunity to play. Their hard work, dedication, and love for sport deserve to be honored, and together we can find a way forward. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. If you want to produce a copy to Shelley, that would be great. And certainly thank you for coming and for your daughter for it. And I think our next speaker is the same Laurel Sweet, I believe it is, from, I guess, Harrington. Felton. Speaking on the same topic. So ma'am, you have 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Okay, so I have 4 daughters, all of them play lacrosse. My 8th grader plays lacrosse too. So she's over at DE Turf. She's got a bunch of her friends that are ready to come up next year from Shipman that are playing at DE Turf. I have one that's an 11th grader playing. My oldest daughter played for all 4 years. My next daughter's actually playing at Purdue at a club team as a goalie. Does well out there. It's a level 1 team, so it's a D1, but it's a thing. The girls worked all last year really hard. They've had 4 scholarships come out of lacrosse in our school. The program had a total of 15 kids last year, and we have 5 kids that came out with scholarships in lacrosse. 1 is this year and 4 last year. And the kids are willing to participate. They're willing to do it, and they don't have anything at this point. And the other, I know how the Chipman is, because that's where I work. They have to sign up on what they're gonna do. So even if they tried to join something at this point, those other clubs are closed. But the girls signed up. I mean, they were given opportunity. There were 12 of them that signed up. The team only needs 10. So I don't know why they're saying no. And I agree with Brianna's idea that, you know, when kids don't get on other teams, they do shuffle and they can get picked up on other clubs. You know, they do that with track and field and that kind of stuff in cross country. But to tell them 2 days, you know, practice starts next week and they don't have anything. We just went and bought all new equipment because the school has no equipment for them either. There's no lacrosse sticks for them to try that I've ever heard of. We just went and bought all their new stuff. I spent like $500 on new equipment because this was supposed to be happening. And I keep it just even if they don't play, but it's the fact that they've been talking, going, they had meetups last summer. They got together over the summer to get to practice. And Bree talked to some of the middle schoolers. And I was looking into, like, I know other schools that 8th graders play on the high school team, and I don't know. And I know Johnson says you can't do that, but I haven't found a reg that says you can. It says you have to be on the same campus. That's not written anywhere. So I don't know if we can pull 8th graders up, but I know there's kids in 8th grade that we would want to play if we can't get them, but they have a team. They have 12 people. So they only need 10 on the field. And if they've played short, we've had people short before, people didn't, you know, people get sick, we understand that. But not every team has, you know, an entire another team to replace that team. So the boys lacrosse played with exactly enough players the year before they demise. But they've got kids coming up, so even when they lose the 2 seniors, they've got a bunch of freshmen that'll be here next year that are ready to play. But I know when they start over again, you pretty much have to start back at the bottom. And it took them, this is their 6th or 7th year of lacrosse, and to reset them when they're willing to do it, they've got people participating. I just don't think it's fair to them. I mean, most of the girls do well. You know that the kids in after school activities do better in school too. That camaraderie, you don't get that anywhere else. And I mean, I don't know if the senior will lose her scholarship by not playing, and that's an option too. I mean, that's not a good thing, that if you have.
Thank you, Ms. Sweet. Thank you, Mr. Hammond. So I appreciate both of you being here and advocating for students and advocating for your own students and others. That's really what this public comment should be all about. So I appreciate you being here and the method going through it. Did just want to quickly address the 8th grader thing. That one is not a Lake Forest rule. That is a DIAA rule. And so that our hands are tied on that, have been tied in the past. We have tried to get exceptions in the past for other sports. Now I know DIAA has gone through some changes recently, but I'm not aware that that one has changed.
Can I speak to that for 1 second?
1 second.
It used to be, I found the reg, and it says that 8th graders can participate on high school teams if they are under the same administration. However, what it does not do, it does not define the word administration. Technically, if I look at it and read it, Shipman falls under this board. This board is the administration. The high school falls under this board. This board is the administration. Therefore, I think, unless I haven't found the right reg.
Yeah, so
Historically, it was for small schools so they could have a program And that, the time for that rule really has passed, but that's for a different time.
Yeah, yeah, and so I don't, not the time for the back and forth, but we have gone down this path before. And whether we agree with it or not, because in the past we have not agreed with it. But it, you know, it's for us, it doesn't seem fair that Milford can do it because their two schools are in the same campus. Del Mar can do it because their two schools are in the same campus, but that's the answer we've gotten in the past, unfortunately. But I will say this, especially since, as you mentioned, it just happened yesterday. It's not something that I was aware of until seeing the sheets. I don't know if other board members were, but it does give us tremendous information and opportunity to look into, ask some questions and go from here. So thank you again very much. With that, that's all we had signed up for this evening. So that will conclude our citizens participation item. And we will open it back up again prior to our next meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you all again. With that, we'll move on to section 3 reports. We'll start with 3.1 student council report. Maya Lopez. Welcome, Ms. Lopez. Floor is yours.
So for the student council board meeting minutes, culinary and hospitality, guest speaker from Delaware Restaurant Association about workforce development and apprenticeship opportunities on 2/19/25. Visit from Delaware Restaurant Foundation to observe our WBL initiative. We are a finalist in the Superstars Award in Education and Training on 2/20/25. Catering desserts for cheerleading competition here at the Lake Forest High School on 2/23/25, and Delaware Pro Star Students Invitationals are on March 12th. Principal Roundtable was held on February 19th, 2025 at 12 p.m. A group of about 10 or 12 students had lunch with Ms. Morello and Ms. Kersey. The students are excited for a hidden talent competition held on April 17th, 2025, hosted by the Black Student Union, American Lung Association Tobacco Free Day on April 17th, 2025, hosted by the American Lung Association grant, also spring sports and the play Sleeping Beauty. FFA week was held during the week of 2/10 to 2/14. The activities included the flag ceremony, green hand ceremony, teacher breakfast, pickle hunt, dodgeball tournament, and trivia on morning announcements. Also, congratulations to Bryn String and Lacey Hudson on receiving a secretary scholarship. The rising ninth grade schedule results: 308 total eighth graders go to Chipman currently. 138 ninth graders came to 2 scheduling nights at the high school, and 170 still need to be scheduled. For the rising pathway breakdown, 26 for allied health, 17 for culinary, 3 for performing arts, 27 for ag power, 11 for teacher academy, 2 for JDG, 12 for animal science, 15 for ag structure, 7 for finance, 12 for computer science, 4 for plant science, 1 for visual arts, and 2 for digital tech.
Great. So thank you, Maya. I think this is the first time you have presented to us, correct?
Yeah.
Great work.
Thank
So could you tell us what your position is with student government and what year you are in school?
10th grader, I guess, like a representative, I guess.
Okay.
That's how-
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you in a lot more reports in the next couple of years.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. 3.2 report, 3.2 financial reports, Mr. Kirk Kellerman, understand not really a report, so to speak, as much as an update.
Yeah, so we don't have a financial report this evening, but we did have kind of a quick informational discussion topic item that indeed the details with the enhanced minor capital improvement funds. So this is the second time in probably the last several years that the state has provided these additional enhanced minor capital improvement funds. The unique character of these funds, though, is different than our normal minor capital improvement funds. The normal funds require a state or a local match. It's the 60-40 state local match. So for every $6 that the state puts forward, we have to raise $4 in taxes in match funds for that portion to get those state funds. And so the unique part about these enhanced minor capital improvement funds is that there is no match required. But they do provide language in the bill that says that the school districts do have the option to provide a match should they deem necessary. And so given the age of our facilities here, and the fact that we've pretty much already exhausted our current minor capital improvement funds, we're in that business where we would have an interest in trying to match those funds. Now, normally that would be done through the tax setting season. And so when you make that decision up front that you're gonna try to match those enhanced minor capital improvement funds, you could add that to the match tax. But in this case, our tax rate has already been set for the year, so, but we do have another option in this case. And so the other option that we have is that we have the Kent County impact fee funds that we collect each year. And so right now, our balance on that account is approximately a little over 3.2 million. And so the enhanced minor capital improvement funds that we've received this year is a little over 300,000. And so our match, if we wanted to, we could provide up to 40% of that match, which would be a little over 200,000. So I'm just proposing that we would take that 200,000 match from our Kent County impact fee funds, that 3.2 million that we have in the books right now, because those are funds that in the future we would use anyway as a local match for major capital or minor capital improvements. So barring any opposition from the board, this was just an opportunity to bring this to the public and let you know our intentions. So any questions with that process?
Thank you, Mr. Kellerman. Questions for Kurt on this topic? So if we put that money forward now, would we be able to potentially adjust the assessment rate in the next year to recoup that, or that simply looks ahead?
So the other thing I wanted to bring up is they have the governor's recommended budget out already. Now, there's a chance it'll change this next month with the new governor in place, but they already have in that new budget a significantly more state amount for the minor capital improvement funds. So it almost equals what our normal MCI was this year and our enhanced MCI. It almost reached that level. So when we talk about trying to match that next year, we're gonna almost have to include that in the match tax. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions for Kurt? All right, thank you for that update.
Thank you.
Okay, 3.3 technology report, Mr. Terry Levin. Welcome, Mr. Levin.
Yeah, thanks. I'll give you a quick overview of what we've done in the last year, from a technology standpoint. The agenda. So this is my technology team. You guys have probably seen this in the past, but pretty strong team of technicians supporting the district. They do all the heavy lifting. Couldn't do it without them, so really appreciate those guys. You see kind of the work orders we've done year to year. At this point, this school year, starting July 1st, we've done 3,173 work orders on all schools. So constant churn, lots of work. We do just about everything. I think today we're at Chipman helping with testing, so we get our hands dirty all the time. Really appreciate these guys. Thanks. So last year when we spoke, the highlights were network rewiring through Chipman, the high school and east, camera upgrades, device upgrades, and our infinite campus migration, like Travis. So where we're at with that. So the building network wiring, again, this was an E-rate funded project. Total was about $850,000. FCC's picking up about $650,000 of that, give or take. With that, Chipman is complete rewire, all new Cat 5 wiring through the building. We have the high school and east scheduled for this summer. So looking forward to getting those upgrades done. It's really helped with the Wi-Fi at Chipman, so I think it's gonna help with these zones as well. Security cameras, when we met last year, we had done east. Since that time, we've got here, Deck's done, Chipman's done, central, south, north, everything except the high school, which is currently in work. I spoke to the technicians today, and they have about 5 cameras left to do at the high school. And then we'll all be on one system, web-based system, except for east, they're a separate system, but we're kind of integrating. But that's been a huge push, and nice job getting that complete. Staff devices, we pulled back about 95% of the devices from our staff over the summer, upgraded with Windows 11. Devices that couldn't be upgraded, again, about 100 of them were replaced, so they have brand new devices. And this summer we'll be finishing, getting everything upgraded prior to the Windows 10 end of life. And then we'll also be replacing additional devices this summer. And then Infinite Campus migration. This is going to be a pretty heavy lift for the district, along with all the other districts in the state. We are on wave 2, so we have the advantage of learning some things from wave 1. For myself, this bullet check there in the back, Danielle Burgat and Mr. Dick, we're meeting with Infinite Campus every other week, just for weekly updates, and we're also participating in a lot of training to get to know the system, so that once we do implement, we could make sure the staff is prepared. Let's see what's going on next. Data backup, we currently use a fairly old system, Barracuda. It works, it doesn't work great, and one of the issues we have with it is so much of our staff is using Google Drive now, that we have no way to back that up because it's in the cloud. So we're looking at some cloud-based systems that will integrate with Google Drive to get back up that data as well. As well as, back up our local server, local data. The network wiring, again, I mentioned that earlier, so we got the high school in East happening this summer, so that'll be, pretty much, beginning of June up to the beginning of the school year again, getting those buildings done. And then the Infinite Campus migration, again, the summertime is gonna be really busy for our team, to get that migration complete. Make sure we get all the application integration with Clever and Pathology, Trapeze, ClassLink, all those things, make sure everything's up and running before the school year starts. And then move forward with staff training when they get there, those 2 weeks before school starts. And again, everything that we're doing in the technology office aligns with the district strategic plan. Priority 1, the education success. Again, that's been the one-to-one devices for the students. We're continuing to maintain those devices. A lot of kids on every day. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of issues with the Chromebooks other than a few broken screens, keyboards here and there. They work. So love the Chromebook. The infrastructure upgrades, and then our partnership between the technology and instructional technology has been great through the Future Ed Committee. Priority 2 area, the communication with the communities. We're still using Remind. It's a great platform. And then school facilities and culture. We get the camera upgrades done, we got server upgrades done, fiber replacement cycle, and all the infrastructure upgrades. So we're looking good moving forward. I think the influx of dollars, through the CARES funding and ESSER funding has really helped get us where we needed to be, and now it's just a maintenance stature from here on out. Yeah, just a quick summary of everything I discussed. Won't read that for you, but anything else? Any questions?
Thank you, Terry. Question for Mr. Lovin and our technology update. Ms. McCluskey.
Not so much a question, just I finally have been on the board long enough to see things become a plan and then come to fruition. So it is really nice to kind of see the wire, see the checkoffs of the things getting done. And I know obviously you guys are working all the time. I know this Infinite Campus thing is probably going to be fun for you.
We're looking forward to it. We'll get through it, and then we'll take the bumps and bruises, and then we'll move on to the next thing.
But it is something I think, everything felt like when I first got on the board, it was like the COVID era, and it was like everything was thrown into technology, and it was just, and it seems much smoother, but I love seeing the checkoffs and seeing things get done, and constantly seeing what we're doing to improve at each school and everything. So I know you're a small little group of people, but it's very important, and I think you guys are doing a great job. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCluskey. Yeah, so, I've always said education is very, technology is pervasive in every organization, but education is really different because now you not only have the technology for the organization, but then you have the educational technology that's necessary to actually for the students to use to educate the students and stuff. And I'm really been very pleased over the years to see how well those two components integrate here at Lake. And that Future Ready Committee that I've been lucky enough to be a part of, I think is a good indication of that, where you get folks from both sides of the house together to have that discussion. So, and I remember back, early days on the board to where, one of the challenges we had was staffing, not having enough IT staff allocated. And so it's great to see still a lean team,
Right.
but a very well qualified, very well motivated team under your leadership. So thank you. A couple questions for you. What's the camera system that we're using in 90% of the district?
The cameras, the system is Auto Aware.
Okay.
So it's a cloud-based system, Motorola. It's kind of the background of that. So yeah, that's the camera here and walk through the halls. So,
And what's the one that East has?
Verkada.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, sorry. And that's more of a proprietary
Yeah,
system, right? That'd be a little harder to.
right. So what we're doing actually at the high school right now is, a lot of cameras we had throughout the district were cloud compatible as it was. So many of the cameras that we pulled out of the buildings that we did last year, we're able to use those on the new system at the high school. So, save with costs, but fortunately, those are not proprietary cameras, so they can work with any system. But the Verkada system at East, it's their hardware, it's their software, it's their cloud. Although there's some talk that may be changing as well. So I think the end goal would be, potentially keep the cameras there, but tie them into the current system that we have. That is just one sheet of glass for the entire district that the constables and administrators and everybody else can have view into.
And one last thing, I think, we completed the migration of our Active Directory and
Right.
stuff into the state forest, right? So that got us some things through the state. How was it worth it? I guess is in summary, do you see a difference now in terms of support and
Yeah.
manageability?
So our biggest, I'll say headache, but our biggest issue when we were on our own was the Exchange email management. I mean, that was a constant, almost a daily piece of that. So being able to hand that off to professionals at DTI is simplifying that piece of it. I don't have to worry about that anymore. So yeah, that's been great. There's some other things, we manage our own Azure, cloud-based kind of infrastructure. We kind of had to give that up, but we weren't doing a lot of that anyway, management. It's kind of a set and forget kind of thing, unless we want some new features. We can request those from DTI. They're not locking everything down. So just partnership with them, it works. So no, not really missing anything,
Okay.
being out on our own. So we're not being out on our own anymore.
Okay. All right, great, thank you. Anything else for Terry? All right, thank you, Ms. Levin, appreciate all you do. On to 3.4, Superintendent Report, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. A lot of great things going on in the district, so I want to start with recognizing just a few. First, congrats to South Elementary School for their award as a National Recognition School. I bring this up again because Mr. Truitt and Dr. Huber went out to Austin, Texas last week and picked up the hardware at their national conference, so congratulations to the great staff and students at South. I'd also like to congratulate Ms. Keisha Baynard at Chipman. She was named Behavioral Health Professional of the Year for the district. We thank her for the great work she does, and we wish her the best of luck at the state level. Speaking of Employees of the Year, Teacher of the Year nominations have closed and the selection process is underway. That's correct, right, Ms. Warren? And we look forward to seeing how that shakes out. We've had a fantastic FFA week last week, which started with a chili flag raising on Tuesday, which was attended by a number of community leaders and culminated with an epic dodgeball tournament on Friday at Chipman. In between, there was a green hand ceremony, FFA staff breakfast, Ag Career Day, a number of other ag-related celebrations. So thanks to Mr. Butler from Chipman, Mr. Curry, Mrs. Scott, and Mrs. Saxton for their leadership in the ag department. Always like to send out some calendar reminders during this time. So tomorrow, Friday, the February 28th marks the interim for the third marking period. That's crazy. already. So please reach out to your school if you have any concerns about your students' progress. Tomorrow also marks the last day of Black History Month, and we're gonna celebrate that by having our culminating event at Lake Forest High School. Dinner will be served at 5, and the program will start around 6. So we encourage everybody to get out there. It's always one of the best community events of the year. Check out our website for more information on that. That's all I have for this portion of my report, so I yield to the floor for any questions or discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Any questions or discussion for Dr. Lucas and Superintendent? All right, thank you again, sir. We're up to 3.5 LFEA report. Ms. Anita Bolashek. Welcome, Ms. Bolashek.
Good evening,
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
gonna keep the floor, Ms. Bolashek. I'm sorry.
back up.
So, I wanted to give, as a part of my report tonight, I wanted to give my semi-annual update on the strategic plan. So, if you remember in the fall, we refer to this as our Spartan for Life Vision 2030. We're probably gonna have to change that pretty soon to 2035 because years are ticking off here pretty quickly. But the purpose of this is to update the board and report progress, make recommendations for future district operations. So just to review, our district priorities are academic success for every student, partnership with families, communities, and businesses, and school facilities, culture, climate. And I just wanted to point out how Mr. Love, and I appreciate how he always works to tie those into all the initiatives. And the rest of the department heads do a great job of keeping our focus on those priority areas. Every year, we kind of have an essential question that we sort of a point of emphasis for the year. For example, last year, our emphasis was on implementing the necessary changes that we needed to increase student learning. And this year, it's all been about Spartan for Life brand to spark and encourage student learning. Our real focus this year in terms of quantitative success has been every K-8 student demonstrating at least 1 year of measurable academic growth. We want all our students ready for kindergarten. Third grade reading, we want every child to read on grade level by third grade. We're really hoping our 4th to 8th grade SBAC scores improve. And then the high school usually has a litany of things that they're focused on, but generally revolves around college, career, and military readiness. Our goal is really for every student to leave our campus enrollable, enlistable, or employable. And just real quick, a little bit more about our Spartan for Life vision. If you remember, that's a way that we can tie together community, district, school, or department leadership and personal leadership as well. Not personnel, personal, like taking ownership of yourself. And it starts with me, right? And there's our community relationships, traditions, and we're an agriculture community, so agriculture is part of being a Spartan for Life. So I thought for this report this year, I do a little SWOT analysis and talk about our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to this point. As far as our strengths go, we have really made some strong gains in staffing. I know that there was a real staffing crisis there for a couple of years where we're having everybody across the state was having a really difficult time finding highly qualified staff. And Mr. Norman and his team have done an excellent job. And for the first time, we are pretty close to being fully staffed, with the exception of some areas that I'll mention that are just supply and demand kind of get the best of us. Sub coverage is at an all-time high, or at least as long as we've been tracking it. This year, we're covering classes at a rate of about 79%, and that was up from 69% last year. So I think when you have less vacancies, you certainly have less need for subs. So that's part of it. We're also getting some good people coming out of Kelly subs. And then leadership continuity has been a real pleasure. We've got principals and assistant principals in place at the schools now for, in most places for quite some time, same teams. And then, of course, the central office and the Board of Education, we've had the same teams in place now pretty consistently for the last 3 or 4 years. Another strength are academics. We've, again, got a full cadre of highly qualified teachers and high quality instructional materials. Mr. Dick and the CIA department have done a great job. We've invested a lot of money in high quality instructional materials. The CKLA for our younger students is amazing. If you ever get into our elementary schools, it's ridiculous to hear these little ones talk about Constantinople and the human body systems, and it's pretty cool. Fiscal responsibility, another one of our strengths. Mr. Kellerman and his team produce a balanced budget every year, and we've been able to add to our strategic reserve, keeping our accounts in the black. And then Mr. Lovin mentioned some of the major investments in technology, but also in facilities. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, we looked at the roofing graph that we got every year, and practically every roof in every building was orange or red. And now those are all, I don't know what color we use, blue, green, whatever it is. But we're in really good shape where the roofs are concerned. We've made major investments in HVAC, and then our technology. The good thing about it is we've been able to really lean on federal and state funding. So we have not had to go into local funding for that. And then, of course, community support and relationships are probably our biggest strength here in Lake Forest. Some of our weaknesses, it's just our staff is, I don't want to say aging because that wouldn't be the right way to put it, but staff are retiring at a higher rate every year. It's just the nature of our profession. And we still see some shortages in secondary math, science, and special ed. And our pay scales, we still, even though the board was very generous the last time we negotiated, our new teacher pay is still about 14th out of 19 of the organized districts. Academics, we're still showing some weaknesses in standardized testing that we're working on, and we feel like we're gonna show growth in that real soon. And then are reliant on the state for capital funding. As you know, we've had 2 certificates of necessity were denied by the state, but we're gonna keep trying. But we couldn't possibly build some of the facility improvements without help from the state. So we still have to rely on them. And then again, our aging building and the technology, it's great. But when we get to the point where we have so much technology, it ages out, and that puts us on a perpetual replacement schedule that costs us a lot of money. So we can see that as a weakness. Some opportunities that we have, with the demand, spurs creative ways to modernize our staff from within. So the Teacher Academy was stood up last year, and the kids are showing great interest in that. Mr. Mormon has I think, what have we got, 4 or 5 ARTCs this year? So we're really showing some growth from within. So we're looking at creative ways to modernize our staff. And then special programming efforts. Ms. Allman's not here tonight, but they've done an amazing job in the special ed side, going out and bringing in PTs, OTs, and some specialists through their interaction and relationship building out at different conferences and such. On the academic side, made some big investments in high dosage tutoring. And then as Mr. Dempsey mentioned, our Future Ready Committee is looking at some AI, some artificial intelligence, and how we can use that to help ease the kind of administrative load on some of our staff. Again, fiscal responsibility, our debt service payments are starting to drop off a little bit less every year. So again, that opportunity makes us a lot more fiscally solvent. And then our building upgrades, relying on those state and federal dollars, have really bought us some time. I mean, our buildings are much older, but we are really in good shape, and we've got time to make the necessary upgrades and replacements. Some threats. As you know, we've got a lot of changes at the state and the state administration, so we don't know what the future holds in terms of what sort of top-down things we're gonna get from the state and from the legislation. Academics, the NAEP scores are a big emphasis. The literacy crisis, so-called literacy crisis that's going on, our continuing growth in special populations. One thing that we haven't talked about much is the burden of proof. And Delaware is a burden of proof state, makes it very difficult, and oftentimes it creates a litigious environment that sometimes is tough to manage, as we know. In terms on the fiscal side, Senate Bill 35 is looming, and that could affect us greatly, as well as equalization. Public Education Funding Commission, we don't know how that's going to fall out in terms of where we're gonna end up at the end of that. And then the public education CC, help me out, Kurt.
Compensation.
Compensation Committee. The state wants to get to 60,000 for new teacher salary. But that means we've got to come up with about 30% of that, and we're pretty far off from that. So fiscally, we're looking at some big challenges over the next few years. And then facilities and technology, space contingencies, we met for the first time with our capital planning about a week ago. And one of the things that we talked about was we have enough space right now, but God forbid there was an emergency. We have nowhere to put kids if we had to relocate one of our schools or, we had some reason that we weren't able to use one of our buildings. So space contingencies and then AI, again, we don't know enough about it to know if that's gonna end up being a threat to us. Looking forward, we hope to run the Community Leaders Open House again in the fall. Again, I keep mentioning AI, but it's a big thing right now and figuring out how we can use that to our advantage. The Strategic Building and Growth Committee that we just stood up last week, we're gonna start meeting quarterly, look to the future as far as building goes, and then continued emphasis on safety and security, which Delaware is one of the highest rated states for safety and security. So thank you to everyone who's contributed to that on the legislative side. So that concludes my report. Any questions or input, discussion from the board?
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. Sorry to cut you off earlier. This is a very critical, very worthwhile questions, discussion from the board for Dr. Lucas.
I appreciate the format that you did that in. That was really nice, just to give us the strengths, the weaknesses, the threats, the opportunities. That's it's helpful to see it in just little pockets of stuff. So thank you for all your work and your leadership and your vision for our district.
All right, thank you again, sir. Okay, without further ado, we'll try again. 3.5 LFEA report, Miss Anita Bulashek. Welcome, Mrs. Bulashek.
Evening. So, one of the things that the teachers and the LPA does and we really support is the collaboration that we have with the district. A lot of our staff, as Dr. Lucas alluded to, that, there's people that have been here for years and years and years are dropping off due to retirement and just saying, you know what, enough's enough. And we're trying to promote, we're trying to retain and trying to promote keeping us in there and making everybody feel appreciated and stuff like that. From our custodial staff to our CNS to even the nurses and support staff and stuff like that. So we appreciate what you guys do for us. This is a critical time. Everybody is very nervous about Infinite Campus, as well as myself and Mr. Levin, as he said earlier. We are trying to plug away and make sure that we have a smoother transition than level 1 did, wave 1. So hopefully things will be smooth for everybody. We are working on the scholarship stuff. We are not doing the pie in the face contest this year. So you're escaping the traditional pie in the face, but we are doing the basket raffle and we are going to do those donations and we're gonna start selling tickets in March. And then we'll have the baskets raffled off in May. Also on March 4th, we are promoting the wearing something red to promote education for all students for equalization and supporting our students across the state. So if everybody would be student staff alike, we're asking if you could wear something red on March 4th to support education for all students.
Thank you, Ms. Bulashek. Any questions, discussion from the board for Anita? Right, thank you again for all that you do and the very open dialogue and relationship we have with LFEA. Thank you. All right, we're up to section 4, unfinished business. Start with 4.1, board policies, second reading.
4.1, board policies, and make a motion we approve the following policies as modified during discussion.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. We will open it up for discussion by quickly reviewing each of these policies. Again, for those in the audience, these have come through once to the board for first reading, so second reading generally goes pretty quickly. We'll start tonight with EBA, Buildings and Grounds Inspections. Any discussion on EBA? Seeing none, move on to EBBB, Accident Reports. Any discussion on this policy? Seeing none, move on to EBC, Emergencies. Discussion on EBC. Hearing none, we go into EBCB, safety drills. Any discussion on this policy? I just had one thing in the red in the third paragraph, building administrators will work with district administrator. I don't usually say that, whether it should be district administration or district administrators. I'm not sure what you, but that correction would be great. Anybody have any further on this?
Well,
Ms. McCloskey?
the only. I don't know if with the necessary authorities, if maybe it is an and or. It says it doesn't always have to be, I don't know, just thought it would read a little bit.
Okay. I would be down with that. Would agree with that. No. It's not always necessarily you're doing
Right.
both. Okay, all right. Thank you. Moving on to EBCC. Bomb threats. Discussion on this policy. Seeing none, moving on to EBCE, school closings and cancellations. Any discussion on this policy. Hearing none, move on to EC, buildings and grounds management. Any discussion on this policy? Seeing none, move on to ECB, buildings and grounds maintenance. Any discussion on ECB? Seeing none, move on to EEAEE, bus emergencies. Any discussion on this policy? And finally, EEBB, use of private vehicles on school business. Discussion on this policy. So I think we had, I have something on this one. I think we had talked about this during first reading, and there was some changes made. I'm still concerned that of staff awareness and following this procedure and or following this policy and the exposure that it potentially puts the district in, as well as them themselves. I know we've mentioned it says on school business, but I think maybe clarifying or outlining or giving examples that will prompt thoughts on this. What I kind of put at the bottom there was a closing statement of this policy applies to all school business and student transport purposes, including but not limited to academic events, field trips, extracurricular activities, athletic practices and games, etc. I think if we put something like that there, it may resonate more with folks of what the heck it is we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, I will hand that off to you. That if the board so desires any discussion on that suggestion. Ms. McCloskey.
I agree. I think it seems very formal, so you don't take it for the informal things.
Sure. Yeah. Great point. So if we could maybe make that change and then pull this one off of tonight's approval and bring it back for second reading, next time we have them. Any thoughts from the administration on that?
Well, I do know that we do have a particular policy directly related to student travel. So I don't know if we should even pull any reference to students off of this policy because it's referenced in policy JJH very explicitly. Transportation to and from schools, blah, 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 whenever practical institution make, district provided transportation, extra and co-curricular activities include all academic contests, athletic competitions, cheerleading, concerts, clubs, and organizations. So I wonder if the route we should go is take students completely off of EBB because they're referenced very specifically in JJH.
And that's maybe where the formality goes to.
Yeah, so that's a great point, Dr. Lucas, because for example, number one is just staff using their personal vehicles for school business. Two is Yeah, so maybe, for example, I think number 5 may be the only one that addresses students. And maybe instead of that, we say, we point to this for any student-related travel.
Yep.
And then we address all of the concerns or questions on that other policy.
So would you leave 5 in there or no? In reference to that, because I guess the only thing I'm thinking is that this is directed to staff use of their vehicles. So I don't know if it like emphasizes it by saying staff can't transport students, but also refer to like, just like DKC is linked in this policy, like I wonder about linking whatever JA or some, like.
So let's do this. Can we bring this policy back for a first reading in conjunction with the other one? And have the policy committee take a look at those suggestions between the two policies and then bring them back to the board together?
Yeah, sure.
I like that. Just because I know I don't know how long we've had this policy, but I just, for some reason, I feel like this is one of those policies that just is not adhered to as often as I think all the time. It's happening all the time, and I see it more as a parent than a board member per se. But I do think, if this is policy, we need to be able to enforce it, so we'll clean that up and make that a point of emphasis for.
And I agree. I see it happening as a parent, and just because it doesn't necessarily concern me as a parent, doesn't mean it doesn't concern me as a board member.
Yeah.
And also doesn't mean it doesn't concern other parents.
Yep.
So we should fix those holes. Okay. Great. All right, thank you. So with that, we'll close discussion on this. We do have a motion on the floor properly seconded. Any final discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0. We're up to item 4.2, the 2025 to 2026 school year calendar. This is a discussion item. Mr. Mormon.
Good evening, everyone. Just are bringing back our calendar draft after presenting it to the community for feedback. We did receive some stakeholder feedback on the draft calendar, which was shared directly with the Board of Education. We are asking that the board do vote to approve this calendar for the upcoming school year 25-26 this evening.
All right, questions or discussion for Mr. Mormon? So,
I didn't,
Mrs. Starkey.
do we need to make a motion for that? I don't see it anywhere else on the.
No, so this is listed as a discussion item, not as an action item, and there is no subsequent action item. So are we okay putting it as an action item in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Does that bind us up timeframe wise? Okay.
No, sir.
All right, I think that's what we're gonna need to do so that it's effectively properly noticed as well, that it would be votable. Any other questions, comments on the calendar itself or the process? So I will say that I think last time we got together, last time we discussed this, we had staff feedback.
Yes, sir.
And we had volumes of staff feedback, mostly very favorable, and that was great to see. So then we put it out for the community feedback, and unless I'm missing something on the document, we didn't exactly have a large volume of community feedback.
Correct.
That could be taken in one of a couple ways. I am hoping the way to properly take that is that we're doing something good and sticking with what we have done the last several years.
Correct.
Everyone is pleased with. So I'm hoping that that's the case. Because we publicly, we went through the same process we always do of getting it out and soliciting feedback, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The one you may have noticed, we did get some specific feedback from one individual that talked a little bit about in-service day in March, trying to break up that time frame. We are kind of restricted with how we use those in-service days throughout the year based upon our negotiated agreement. We are required to provide the opportunity for teachers to finish up report cards and wrap up grading and do things at the end of each marking period. So, pulling an in-service day from the end of a marking period and putting it elsewhere can result in a challenge. The approach that we use with the front loading of several in-service days to help with preparing the classroom environment for the teachers and professional development, as well as the non-academic training that they're required to take, such as child abuse training, sexual harassment training, things of that nature, all take place at the beginning of the year. So teachers are limited to 188 days per year. And then so, pulling students out, obviously, we have only about 7 days built into the calendar for any other contingencies. So removing additional student days would put us in jeopardy of potentially having to extend the school year should any kind of major event happen that requires school closure.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Mormon. Anything final from the board? All right, we appreciate the discussion. We'll see this as an action item for a vote in our first March meeting. With that, we're up to some action items. Mrs. Starkey, Section 8 personnel.
Yep, Section 8 personnel resignations. I make a motion, we approve resolution 8.1 as written. Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0.
Section 9 personnel retirements. I make a motion, we approve resolution 9.1 as written. Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0.
Section 11 personnel transfers. Be it resolved that the Lake Forest Board of Education approve the transfer of Sarah K. Huber from assistant principal at Lake Forest South Elementary School to principal at Lake Forest South Elementary School effective July 1st, 2025.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0. So we talk about, have some discussion after the vote. We talk about one of our current goals and priorities is that Spartan for Life. And we certainly have one here on the agenda. We will miss Mr. Truitt, who is retiring this year as our principal at South. But we are very happy to introduce Dr. Sarah Huber as our new principal for the next school year of Lake Forest South Elementary. Please join me in congratulating her. So Dr. Huber, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you have family who have joined in to join in the celebration with you. Would you care to say a few words?
Yeah, my mom and dad joined on Zoom and my husband stayed home with our foster daughter. She likes to talk, so we didn't think she'd be able to handle this for very long. So I'm super excited. I can't wait. We have a wonderful team of South, a great community, and I am very excited for this next chapter, and we're going to keep doing some great things.
Well, thank you very much. We are all very proud of you. We're all very glad to have you, and we look forward to this great success in this next chapter. So thank you, Sarah. Okay, Mrs. Starkey.
Section 13 personnel offers of employment. I make a motion, we approve resolution 13.1 and 13.2 as written. Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0.
Section 15 personnel leaves of absence. I make a motion, we approve resolution 15.1 through 15.6 as written. Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0.
And still in section 15 personnel leaves of absence, I make a motion, we approve resolution 15.7 and 15.8 as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Nay. Any abstentions? Motion fails 0-3.
Section 17 personnel terminations. Be it resolved that the Lake Forest Board of Education approve the termination of case number 012025 effective February 17th, 2025.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0.
Section 19, personnel appointments. I make a motion, we approve resolution 19.1 as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0.
Section 21, other business. I make a motion, we approve resolution 21.1 school choice as presented.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0.
Section 22, other business field trips. I make a motion, we approve resolution 22.1 as written.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded. Any questions or discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Mrs. Starkey. Thank you, Mrs. McCluskey. We're up to section 25. Item 25.1, good of the order, opportunity for board members to address any topics not covered elsewhere on the agenda. The floor is open. Ms. McCluskey.
I just want to say, I was looking out there to see, is anybody here from the high school?
John's over here.
Oh, John. Oh, I see, you were hidden from me. The high school, number one, these programs of study look great. Not, even though I was excited to get my booklet, I already got to go through it, all 60 pages of it or whatever online because it's there, perfect. Every time I was swiping, my phone was going, sweet. And my kid's like, what are you doing? The program study. Looks great. Stop doing that. But it looks great. I'm really excited for that. I think it's gonna be a great handheld visual for these kids to see, and hopefully it just keeps more kids excited about coming to our high school and not leaving us. So if they can see all the things we're offering, which I'm excited about. I have a 10th grader that was going into, or that's going into 11th grade. I got to kind of go through the scheduling because of the changes that are going on at the high school with some of the pathways. So it's really nice to see and see what's available and see how they're putting it out there to show what can be done with these pathways. So I really like this. So good job.
Here, here. Anything else? So tomorrow's the last day of February. Where does the time go? So I bring this up once again to talk about the school board elections. It's that time of the year. Lake Forest Board of Education does have one seat scheduled for an election this year. The terms now consist of a 4-year commitment. Filing deadline is always the first Friday of March, which this year is next Friday, March 7th. And then elections after that are always the second Tuesday of May, which this year will be Tuesday, May 13th. At this point, checking the state elections website today, we currently do have 2 candidates who have filed to run for the open seat. And reading those in order as they appear on the elections website, we have Daryl Hughes from Felton, Delaware, who filed on February 4th and is listed as a provisional candidate. And we have Mr. James Rao, who filed on February 10th and is listed as a qualified candidate. Once again, thanks to both gentlemen for their interest in filing. Arguably, there's no greater method of having local community impact than serving on your local district board. That is all I have. I will add that our next meeting is in 2 weeks, Thursday, March 13th. We will be back at the central business office. No field trip that night, Randy. But once again, thank you for hosting us tonight and doing such a great job welcoming us with open arms. Anything else good in the order? All right, I would like to have a very brief executive session just for one personnel item. So we will, so just so you know, we're going to have a brief discussion on a personnel item. We will come back together and adjourn. There will be no further business, but thank you all for being here this evening. And we'll make a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
A motion on the floor properly seconded to exit executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for supporting our great district.